The Toronto Maple Leafs have made multiple shocking moves ahead of tonight's game against the Chicago Blackhawks, and someone involved in those moves is a very familiar face, and that is Jani Hakanpaa. We're going to break down those reports and those moves, as well as discuss multiple injury updates for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They've been bitten with the injury bug this season. We have some more updates on that front, and they're a little bit wild. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into all of that, a quick reminder that this video is brought to you by Rentals.ca, who are proud supporters of Team Canada. And while they've been supporting our national team defend their home court at international competition, they've also been helping thousands of Canadians find their home floor all across the country. And whether you are in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, Calgary, Halifax, Winnipeg, Mississauga, Edmonton, Victoria, St. John's, it doesn't matter, from coast to coast, Rentals.ca has a ton of options to find the perfect place and price for you.
Their website is clean and easy to use, and you can pinpoint exactly on the map where you want to move, finding all the options in your area. Find your home court with Rentals.ca.
Yeah, check out the link in the pinned comment as well as the description down below. And thank you to Rentals.ca for supporting us, supporting Team Canada, and supporting you guys and finding the best rentals across the country. So thank you again to Rentals.ca for sponsoring this video. But Darius, speaking about moving, the Leafs are making a ton of different moves right now, and some familiar faces here, and there's a lot to go over, so make sure you stay tuned to the end, because there's also some other updates. The lines are looking a bit different. We're seeing some season debuts. Let's start with Jani Hakanpaa. So the Maple Leafs have placed him on the injured reserve, retroactive to November 16th, and Marshall Rafai has been recalled. So for one, it's kind of funny that he's back on the IR. It's not funny in the sense of he's been on there so often, but it's funny because it's retroactive to November 16th, and this is a way to circumvent some things. And I think what's happening right now, even though he's still dealing with an injury, it seems Craig Berube came out and basically said it's precautionary at this point. They're trying to help him manage his injury and also get another guy up in Marshall Rafai. But at the same time, there has to be some level of concern here, even if it is just precautionary, that they're still having to, kind of baby this injury and deal with it. And let's not forget, he's barely played in the past couple of weeks, especially with the way, the schedule has been. And obviously Connor Timmins and Simon Benoit playing really well. What are your thoughts on Hakanpaa heading back to the IR, even though he can return at any time?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's pretty crazy that they can do this, right? He's on the IR retroactive to November 16th, which was that game against the Edmonton Oilers, which feels like years ago at this point because they've played so little since then. But he can be activated, like you alluded to, at any point right now. But he is on the IR, so it gives him an opportunity to call somebody else up. So, usually with these things, I take the optimistic side, and I'm going to a degree here. I mean, Marshall Rafai coming up, that's a good thing. The fact that he's going to get more experience practicing with the NHL team, I could see him getting into a game as well here in the next little while. He's getting NHL pay. That's all good, right? And he's slowly moved his way up the depth chart in the Leafs organization. So I think that's fantastic. And again, I do see him getting into a game here if Hakanpaa remains on the IR. But I do think that there is a pretty high level of concern here. Why is Hakanpaa going back on the IR, right? He's only played, I think, 2 games this season, and he came off the IR, and obviously there was a big deal made out of that he was finally getting into games. He played in, I think, only 2, and then now he's back on the IR, right? So it gives him an opportunity to call somebody up, yes, but why is he going on the IR? He's been scratched this whole time. I'm assuming they've been nursing that injury in the meantime. So I think this is a little concerning to me that they're having to do this and he's not going to play and he's not even going to be available. So I'm sure he's still, working his way back to get up to speed to a degree. But again, he's played 2 games. So I thought that was kind of over and done with, right? He's practiced with them a ton and he's gotten into games. So I think there is a level of concern for me, at least. Like normally I would look at these things and be like, all right, makes sense, right? Maybe he needs a moment here and they can call somebody else up and give them a shot. But I think it's pretty interesting. And the lines tonight reflect that as well. Philippe Meyer getting into the lineup. We'll get into the lines in a minute, but I think that's very interesting as well.
Yeah, and obviously he's only on a 1-year deal now. They clearly worried about his injury in the offseason, and that's why it took so long to actually finalize the deal. So hopefully, regarding Jani Hakanpaa, he's going to be okay. And again, he can be useful specifically in the playoffs during certain matchups against teams like the Bruins, teams, really any physical team. I was going to say like the Penguins, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. You look at some other things here. So head coach Craig Berube, Max Domi is getting closer to returning from his lower body injury, and Jake McCabe is missing practice tonight, but it is he's missing the game tonight, not practice, because of precautionary reasons, which is it makes sense, obviously. That being said, some more injuries are going down here. Jake McCabe, it seemed like in all likelihood, I believe it was yesterday, they said he was going to be good to go for tonight's game. Yep. Ultimately, not the case. They're going to be precautious and they're going to play it safe, and Domi as well. So it's I want to ask you now, hopefully the team is starting to get back. You see Max Pacioretty on the ice early as well. I think there's a world here by maybe Friday or one of the doubleheader games where you see Max Domi, Jake McCabe, and maybe even Max Pacioretty at least start to make their way towards and trend towards a return here, which could go a very long way in helping this team secure wins, to get some fresh legs under them, even though I think they all have fresh legs at this point, considering they've barely played in the month of November. But as they're playing 4 games a week, basically, for the rest of the month with 4 back-to-back, so back-to-back every week, they're going to need everybody to be healthy, and it's good to see Max Domi return, even though he's been pretty abysmal so far this year.
Yeah, so Jake McCabe got hit in the head the other day with, or last game against Tampa Bay Lightning, with a puck. So obviously they said he's fine, and he did, leave that game and he didn't return, but they were winning that game. They were in a good spot, right? So obviously it's precautionary. They see an opportunity here, like we just mentioned, to put Hakanpaa on the IR, and then Rafai can come up. So probably just giving him a day here. Like if the team was struggling, maybe he ends up playing, but they're playing fine, right? They lost 1 game in their last bunch here, so they're playing really, really well, and I think they see an opportunity here to kind of fiddle with things a little bit, and I think that's totally fine. In terms of Max Domi, I think we're going to see him at some point this week for sure. I think he's coming back pretty soon. The language they were using even last week was he wasn't going to travel with the team on this road trip, but he should return shortly after. And then I think Max Pacioretty, on the other hand, too, is probably a casualty of the LTIR. They had to put him on LTIR to make the salary cap work with all the different players that they were missing and having to make call-ups. So I think he's probably ready to come back now, but he's going to have to stay there until, I believe it's December 12th or 14th. I can't remember which game it is, but he's going to be there a little while longer. He has to ride it out on LTIR. And unfortunately, I think he probably could come back sooner, but to make the salary cap work, they had to put him there. But he should be back soon as well. I think it's the 10th or the 14th. I don't have it off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, and they're gonna, like I said, he's going to be trending back, and Domi is going to be back, at least we hope. And Max Pacioretty, whenever he's ready to come off the LTIR, according to the date that they put him on. But looking at the lines now, very similar in the sense of Nyes, Matthews, Nylander. They're running that back. You have Pontus Holmberg, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, Robertson, Minton, Lorenz, Gurbenkin, Dewar, Alex, Nylander. So very similar. But one of the bigger changes for the lines tonight is the blue line. And they have Philip Myers on the top pairing alongside Riley, with OEL Tanev, Benoit, Timmins, with Stolarz starting tonight. So, I've also seen Gurbenkin's name spelled probably 50 different ways here, so I'm assuming that's a typo, but either way, there's the lines seem pretty similar in the forward front. The defense, though, we get to see Philip Myers in action, and to a bit of a surprise here, he's paired in the top pairing with Morgan Riley, who seems to be the guy who just gets paired with all these different defensemen every time they come up.
I think Riley's super underrated. I think he gets a lot of hate sometimes, unfortunately, because sometimes Leaf fans and the media and everyone, you got to pick one guy sometimes. Sometimes it's Riley, sometimes it's Marner. So I think, sometimes it gets a rough ride. He's a really good player who I think can play with a lot of different players. He played with Ilya Lyubushkin, right, and made him look pretty serviceable. So I think he's a great player, and he's going to, play with Philippe Meyer tonight, and I think it'll be fine. But I think it's also more about how the rest of the defensive pairings are shaping up. You're missing McCabe here, who's been playing really well with Tanev. So OEL has been pretty good in that role too. Put him with Tanev, and then obviously Benoit and Timmins, they've been fine. Benoit, since being scratched, he's been fantastic as well. Just to touch on Gurbenkin, I mean, if you remember during the summer when we first heard about him, his name was Gribyankin. So I don't know exactly what his name is at this point, but I'm assuming that is a typo. That's pretty funny. But yeah, I think the lines, at least on offense, pretty similar to what we've seen. It should be fine. Should be a good game. You're playing the last place Chicago Blackhawks in the entire league, so you should come up with a win. I think if you want to prove that you're a different Leafs team, you have to win this game, because in years past, you find a way to lose this game. I think tonight you just have to come in, killer instinct, win this game. It doesn't matter who's missing. You've been playing well. Continue to do that.
Yeah, and let us know down below what your thoughts are on that. It's interesting to see Myers. Hopefully he plays well. And yeah, couple things from Craig Berube. He'll be fine. Little precautionary circumstances, like you mentioned. It's also the Blackhawks, so I think they're going to win. And here we are. Anthony Stolarz gets in tonight, and the duo, the tandem, has been the best in the NHL so far, and the best we may have seen, ever regarding the Leafs, regarding a 1-2 punch here. So hopefully they can keep that going with a win tonight, and what's going to be a very busy week. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, and thank you again to Rentals.ca for sponsoring this video. We'll see you later for our post-game stream tonight.